Hello everyone and welcome back to JB's Total Gaming. It's a great time in Warframe right now. We've got lots of new stuff. We've got the Prisma Grinlock. We've got Hildren that we're looking at right here. We've got the two-handed katana Tetsu. And we have got the Opticor Vandal. That's the one I'm deciding to do a video on first right now because I think it's the most interesting and controversial. So we're going to take a look at it right now and kind of what it does. And actually before we even do this, let's go to Equip and let's compare it to the regular Opticor here. So if you look at this, and this is where this gun is causing some controversy as to whether it's good or bad. It is very grindy to get 100 of those fissures or fractures, or whatever they're called, closed. It helps if you do 4 in a row with the same one, but anyways, let's talk about it. They improved this gun in almost every way. The charge rate is much faster. The critical chance is higher. The crit multiplier is very slightly higher. The fire rate is a lot faster. The magazine is 8 instead of 5. The reload speed is 1.4 instead of 2.0, which is great. The status chance is 10% higher, and the slash damage is also higher. So almost every stat you can imagine, I mean everything but punch through is increased, and that makes this gun much more usable. The biggest problem with the Opticor was that although it was very powerful, it just fired so slow. You had to reload a lot. It was a long reload. It just, so many things about this gun were made so much better. However, if we look at the puncture and the impact, we can see there is a big difference. I mean, the impact, yeah, that's a pretty big difference, but the puncture, oh my gosh. So this weapon has basically lost 60% of its base damage. And you might say, and there are people out there saying the Opticor Vandal is a joke, it's terrible, why would you use it? And to be fair, I didn't really use the Opticor. I mean, I leveled it, but I didn't form it or anything. I don't think I potatoed it. It was cool, but for me, it was kind of a meme. It was super powerful, but it was so slow and sluggish that I didn't really enjoy it really past leveling it. However, you can see I've definitely formatted the Opticor Vandal 6 times. So does that mean I think this gun is automatically better? Not necessarily. There are going to be people, a lot of people, that are saying that they definitely prefer the original Opticor because it just was so powerful. Now, this weapon fires faster than the original Opticor does, even using vial acceleration. So basically, this fires twice as fast, charges twice as fast, or whatever, and this is 90% increase. So basically, this is comparable, if not a little bit faster already, than what the original gun fired with vial acceleration. So you don't need to use vial acceleration if you're comfortable with the fire rate using that, and obviously you didn't even need to use it before. It just fired very, very slowly. So right now we're going to take a look at what I would consider a potential kind of basic build for this. Now you can definitely use the 60/60 mods, and we're using corrosive here, and you can swap it out depending on who you're fighting. And the corrosive mods make a difference because the status chance is, now we have multi-shot on this, but the status chance is 10% better. And if you're going to be hitting an enemy multiple times, it's going to be more likely because this fires more often with lower damage. You can do a cheaper build with less Forma using the 60/60 mods here, because they will only take up 7 slots even without a Forma, which is pretty nice. However, I still prefer using the 90 mods. This still hits really hard. This is going to still kill most things in the star chart in one hit. Eventually, you're going to get the things, obviously, that it won't, and, you know, obviously this is going to do less damage in a maxed out damage Opticor, but I still prefer using these because most enemies I'm going to hit once, and because of the punch through and kind of the wide beam and kind of almost slight area of effect on the gun, then you're going to be able to take out multiple enemies in one shot, which I like. Now, heavy caliber, again, some people may not recommend it, but on a weapon like this, it doesn't really affect your accuracy. I personally highly suggest heavy caliber, and I still want to do a lot of damage with this weapon personally, even though it's not as powerful as the original by a pretty good margin. Now, serration, obviously you're going to include in pretty much any rifle unless you're doing chroma runs against the Eidolon and doing crazy weird buffs. Now, split chamber I have for the multi-shot, and then point strike and vital sense. You can see here that our critical chance is 60%, which is pretty good. Now, again, there's a lot of different things you can do, but this is what I'm going with is kind of a basic setup. Now, for this last slot, there are several things you can go with. I'm not huge on hunter munitions for this weapon. You don't fire all that often, so that 30% proc isn't necessarily going to happen a whole lot. I think bladed rounds is a pretty good choice. Obviously, we're not formud for that right now, but bladed rounds doing more critical damage when you already have a 5.7 multiplier with this setup, that's gonna, that's gonna do some good damage. Argon scope, obviously, with any weapon you want to do critical damage, can be pretty good as well. Now, and there's lots of things that you can do. For me, personally, though, here we're going to go to what we have format here. I'm going to go still with Vial Acceleration. Now, again, Vigilante Armaments, this is probably what I would suggest with the basic build, because the critical chance still isn't super high. More multi-shot, you can upgrade to crits. This would probably be my suggestion for this last slot. For me personally, though, if you really want to do the most damage. For me personally, I kind of like this setup with Vial Acceleration. So like I said, you don't need it on this, but this just makes it fire even more quickly. So we're going to take a look at kind of a basic setup here. And we're going to take a look at, let's do level 100, Corrupted Heavy Gunners. Great, we're already set up. Let's put them in. And we're using Hildron here. We don't have any buffs or anything like that. We're not doing anything funky to do more damage. And let's go ahead and do some headshots here. So you can see, if I fully charge it, we're going through enemies with the punch through, and level 100 enemies, we're able to take down relatively quickly. Now you can see how quickly we're firing here. We can do more damage on here. We can put, more multi-shot to do more damage, and we are getting some, procs and things like that as well. And again, if you want to do the 70 mods and you want to go for fire rate, that's definitely something you can do. So against level 100 enemies, this is doing all right. Obviously not as good as the original, and we even got a bleed proc there. So pretty good. Now this is again kind of a basic build. There are different ways you can do it, and now some of you out there are saying, hey, the other one did so much more damage, and you definitely can. I personally really like this gun though. When I'm not doing stuff that is like super high end, it's going to one-shot most things. And again, if I want to, and why don't we go ahead and do that? Let's just put Vigilante Armaments on here and reset the test. So if you don't mind not having the increased fire rate and having the fire rate, just basically a little bit faster than where it was with Vial Acceleration on the previous one. And again, you're losing damage with Vial Acceleration too, so let's not forget that. So again, we're now you can see we're definitely doing some more damage. So this is probably the build that I would suggest for most people. I just personally really like the increase. Yeah, you can see how much damage you do with that one shot there. How much damage you do is enough when you're not doing, sortie level and higher content. So if you want a little bit more damage, definitely use this, because Vial Acceleration takes some damage off, and this is going to let you, more quickly take down high level enemies. Pretty good, pretty decent damage. So obviously you're really hurting from the damage on the original Opticor, but it's so much usable with that higher magazine rate and that faster fire. Now, of course, let's look at a build with a Riven. So this is my everyday build. It's basically kind of the same thing. I don't have the multi-shot on here actually, and you might say, well, that's a little bit weird. Well, it's because I've got this. It's already got a lot of critical chance. You can see with this, we now are over 100%. We're guaranteed crits all the time, and the multi-shot on this. So when I was trying to figure out what mod do I want to drop, we could use the multi-shot instead of Vital Sense, which is basically with split chamber, basically what I'm doing on the max power build. So you can see there is quite a bit more damage here as opposed to this build going into this build. You can see what was it, just look for an example here. 7,000, yeah, actually you can see right here, 7,000 to 9,000, it was 77, but a big damage increase. So if I'm going into higher level content, this is probably what I'm bringing with this setup. I really like this roll. I only had to roll it 3 times, which is pretty good. And getting that critical chance up to over 100, I'm very happy about. So we'll go ahead and show off the max power. You've seen the fire rates, and this right here, for most content, if I'm doing some leveling on Hydron, this kills every enemy except for the Nox in one shot. So this is enough for this weapon, and then this will show off for a little bit more of a max power build. So now again, there's going to be a lot of opinions out there. A lot of people are going to say, hey, this is a real long grind, and the damage is so much lower that, yeah, you can see, yeah, with this setup, we're doing some work here with the Riven. And yeah, this is the max power setup. So we did actually one shot with the proc there. So yeah, this is pretty powerful. So these are level 100 enemies. We are, you know, 1 to 2 shotting them, usually 2 shotting them, which I still think isn't bad. And you can see how fast this is firing even without the Vile acceleration on it. But for everyday content, you know, I'm still going to prefer having that faster fire rate. So what do I think about the weapon? I personally love it, but I totally understand why there's people out there that don't. There's going to be people out there that say the damage is just so much lower. They prefer the OG one, and guess what? I totally get it. I'm totally on board. That ton of damage is really cool. I personally just found the weapon a little bit annoying to use, so you can see with Vile Acceleration how fast we can fire on this setup though. This is the one I prefer. You know, even though we're losing damage, even though, okay, we're gonna, oh, we might have to 4-shot or even more of this guy. So depending on, you know, basically how much damage we're doing. A couple of these guys are taking quite a few more shots. A couple of them were still 2-shotting. That guy flew away. I prefer the faster fire rate setup though. So if you know, don't have a Riven for this, you know, then this is kind of where I am leaning right now. I prefer the faster fire rate. I still think you do a ton of damage, and I think this is a pretty decent setup. In this one, we're able to fit on both heavy caliber and not heavy caliber, sorry, split chamber and vital sense. So I don't know. I really like the weapon. The faster fire rate I think makes it a lot more usable. But if you're out there saying, hey, I don't mind a slower fire rate, I want to do a ton of damage, then well, the OG one is still for you. So is the grind going to be worth it? Well, if you are only interested in the Opticor because of the massive damage numbers you can do with it, this is going to be a huge drop off. If you're someone like me who thought the Opticor was a cool concept, you like doing a lot of damage, but the fire rate, the reload was so bad on it that you didn't find it enjoyable, then hey, I think the grind is worth it. So there's a quick look at what the Opticor can do. If you want to see some other stuff like on Hildron, on Tatsu, stuff like that, or the Prisma, what's the Prisma Grinlock, is it? Yeah, I'm trying to remember here. Then let me know. I haven't done a video in a while. I apologize for that, but you know, I'm actually enjoying this weapon quite a bit too. It's cool looking and it's pretty neat. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it helpful in deciding whether or not you want to do the grind. Please like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see in the future. Thanks a lot for watching, and we will talk to you again soon.